Where am I? Good evening. I'd like to call the February 3rd, 2025 regular Town Council meeting to order. And if you are able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilor Buganski. Present. Councilor Lewis. Present. Councilor Valboni. Present. Councilor Carey.
Present.
Mayor Delnicki.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Saracusa.
Present.
Councilor King.
Here.
Councilor Fitzgerald.
Here.
Councilor Pendleton.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Town offices will be closed on Wednesday, February 12th in observance of Abraham Lincoln's birthday. Town offices and the school district will be closed on Monday, February 17th in observance of President's Day. February is Black History Month, an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing their central role in U.S. history. And the South Windsor Public Library is holding community feedback sessions about library services in South Windsor. The collected information will be used to draft a strategic plan outlining changes in services at the library over the next several years. The library's Strategic Planning Committee has planned 3 in-person workshops and 1 virtual workshop during the month of February. The in-person workshops will take place in the library's Friends Room on Friday, February 7th at 2 p.m., Monday, February 10th at 6 p.m., and Tuesday, February 18th at 6 p.m. The virtual workshop will be held on Thursday, February 27th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. Each meeting will cover the same content, so community members can choose the session that fits their schedule best. For more information, visit southwindsorlibrary.org. And also, the library director has invited everyone here on the town council to attend one of these sessions. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Item 5, adoption of the agenda. Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of the agenda.
Second.
We have a second. Any motion, any discussion, any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to item 6, communications and reports from the town manager, Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Going through my report first, and then I'm going to ask both the building department and fire marshal to come up and give some quick updates on their departments. But first of all, on January 28th, South Windsor was officially designated again as a bronze level bicycle friendly community by the League of American Bicyclists. This is the second time South Windsor has been designated with the award, and it shows the commitment that the town has been making for biking and a more accessible community. Thank you for the great work by the Parks and Recreation Department and the South Windsor Walk and Wheelways. On January 29th, I attended the 50th Annual Council of Small Towns meeting. The meeting hosted speakers such as Governor Lamont, the Commissioner of the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, the State Comptroller, 4 legislative leaders, DEEP announced a new concierge service through their website for developers and towns to monitor and inquire about permits and applications. There was considerable talk related to the state budget and in particular, the cost of special education. Governor Lamont and all of the legislators made vague promises of more municipal funding. However, we will need to wait until we see the actual governor's budget, which should be coming out soon. As many of you are aware, the town was forced to close Rye Street Park to the public due to the damage that occurred to the fields from people driving vehicles and snowmobiles on the fields. With the snow starting to melt, the park will again be opened on February 3rd, that's today. Staff will be working to repair the tire tracks and ruts with the intention of having the fields ready for spring sports by the end of March. In terms of our Standard & Poor rating, I'm pleased to report that the town has reaffirmed its rating as AAA. A few of the reasons that Standard & Poor pointed to for reaffirming that, first of all, is the affluence of our community, our financial management and policies, a positive trend of financial performance, and affordable overall net debt with manageable capital needs. One other item not on the report, our collector's update that I emailed to all of you this morning. Basically the grand list, comparing grand list 2022 to grand list 2023. In 2022, we were at 95.86% collected, and this year we're at 96.19% collected. So that's some good work on their parts. With that being said, I'd like to invite up Mr. Melanson first to talk a little bit about the building department real quick.
Good evening. My name is Mark Melanson. I'm the Chief Building Official.
Mark, if you can put the mic on, please. Thank you.
Here we go. My name's Mark Melanson. I'm the Chief Building Official for the town. Came here to discuss our department a little bit and what we do. At this time, we have myself, a Chief Building Official, 2 full-time inspectors, and 1 full-time administrative assistant. Our main function for the town is to administer the Connecticut State Building Codes, which the codes themselves are a minimum standard for the safety and health and well-being of the residents of the town. It also helps enhance the property values. Our main objective is to uphold the building codes fairly by treating all customers with respect and courtesy, and we use education as of the codes as our primary tool to gain compliance. There's different tools that we can use, but that's the one we want to go with because that's the easiest. Other functions of our department is we offer guidance to developers, contractors, homeowners embarking on projects within the jurisdiction. We provide support to applicants in navigating the online permitting application. We review applications and issue permits for constructions and projects of all scales and sizes. We coordinate with other departments to help get the permits approved and also to set up inspections and to find those certificate occupancies when it's needed. We try to deliver prompt and high-quality service to ensure that homeowners, contractors, and businesses encounter minimal delays in their construction endeavors. We conduct comprehensive inspections for various permit types. Each permit requires a minimum of 2 inspections. All right. We also enforce the Town of South Windsor's anti-blight ordinance. We have a part-time zoning officer that does blight also, but she falls under the building department for that. We collaborate with the fire department to address structural, electrical, and mechanical concerns pertaining to buildings when they're out on calls or any time it's needed. We assist the fire marshal's office during structural fires and incidents involving related equipment, or even just to see if the house is structurally sound after a fire. We assess the ability of structures post-fire or following any type of structural, electrical, or mechanical issues to make sure that people can move in. And if not, we help relocate the victims or the families that are there and try to help them through the process of getting back into their homes as soon as possible and as quickly as possible. We also do that with the businesses. Our office responds to a lot of FOIs, requests to check on open permits and code violations before they sell their houses. I guess they're requiring now that they check with the building department, see if there's any open permits, if there's any code violations. So daily we get quite a few requests, and that takes a lot of times. We also work with the homeowners and real estate agents on closing out old permits that have never been closed or inspected before they can sell their house. For the last fiscal year, 23-24, we issued approximately 2,366 permits and conducted 5,378 inspections. That averages to approximately 20 to 21 inspections a day and about 9 to 10 permits a day that have been issued. Most inspections take about 45 minutes long because we have to travel to each place, and then after we have to, we do the inspection, and then we have to enter them in the results into the portal. Some of the issues that we're dealing with is we don't have enough time to take and check, see when permits are closed. Some of the people and contractors are not calling for final inspections. So to go back, we have to go back into the software, try to find out how many there are and when they are, and try to schedule inspections. We're dealing with a lot of that. We started going through the old pool permits that have never been inspected, and we're trying to do with the safety first to go with those. This year is going to be even busier. Talking with the planning department, they're talking at least approximately 800 or more residences coming in, apartments, other things. There's a couple of commercial buildings, warehouses, and that are coming in down the pipeline. So our big thing is just try to keep the service going. That right now the inspections are about a week and a half to 2 weeks out for any inspections, and we're trying to bring it down, but it's just a challenge trying to do that with the amount of inspections that have to be done. That's basically in a nutshell what we do. I don't know if you have any questions or.
Counselor King?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate you, Mark. Thanks for being here. So, there are 3 questions. One, did I hear you correctly? You said you have 2 full-time inspectors, and then you said you had 1 full-time, another employee, or?
There's myself,
Yep.
there's 2 inspectors.
Yep.
And then an administrative
Oh,
assistant.
admin, okay.
She keeps everybody together.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, so that's 4 of you. Now, this issue that you just brought up, now, is that a CRM issue, or is that a people issue, a software issue whereby somebody says, oh, we need an inspection, and it's getting to you late? Or is it more of a, you know what, Steve, we have like 5 other inspections to do this week, and we're just actually playing catch-up, almost like my email, if you will?
Well, a lot of it is the time to do the inspections and finding the time to do it. All right, right now, I'm putting in well over 40 hours a week, almost every week, just trying to keep up with the permits. The issue is that we're getting a lot of permits now that their applications are incomplete. So it's back and forth a lot going with that. And then inspections also, we're finding that the quality is not there in a lot of the work. So we're going back multiple times for re-inspections.
Okay.
In a perfect world, you could probably do a lot of these inspections 2 times, that's it. But, you know, there's a lot of times where a contractor will miss something, they're busy, they don't have time, or something happens like the weather. If the weather is bad, they can't do somebody else on inspection, so then the next day, they're trying to get more and more, and it's just a toll on the department, and also the contractors. We're trying to keep them happy by, you know, contractors don't want to waste time or lose money, so we're trying to get them within a week and a half, but right now we're down to almost 2 weeks.
Yep.
Some weeks are a little less, some weeks are a little more.
So to that end, if I could, Madam Mayor, when you're talking about loss of money and having to go back 2 and 3 and 4 times, the first question would be, part A probably would be, is this a cyclical thing where this happens, Steve? I'm not as familiar, so this just happens. It is a timing thing. You know, some years it's going to be like this, some years it's not. Cyclical? Or, just to follow up on that, to be part B, is it the type of a situation where, and I get it, everybody has pockets, that, you know what, guys, if this isn't done, then we are charging you for X. Like, we don't have the time, as you said, to go back out there 3 and 4 and 5 times. We're not going back and forth with you. You get it right the first time, you know, just like in school. Okay, maybe we'll give you a makeup exam, but if you can't get it right, then it's going to be a charge to you for us having to come back out there.
We've been talking about that a little bit because of the fact that a lot of the times the re-inspections are for solars. You have these big companies and the people that are installing them, they're different contractors all the time. They're different people out there. So those are the ones that we usually end up going back on for those. A lot of the local contractors that do the smaller jobs, those guys are usually pretty good. If we go back, it's something that they might have missed or something that happens. It's not a tendency, but a lot of the solars are the ones we normally do 3, 4 inspections on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Melanson. Follow-up question to Councilor King. I think you said that the problem is folks are not calling you back for the final inspection, and then the project is completed without you knowing. Is that?
Yeah, what's happening is some of these contractors, I don't know if they're just too busy that they don't call back or they tell a homeowner to. And a lot of times we'll find out when somebody's going to sell their house that, geez, you have a permit from 2019 that nobody ever inspected. Well, the homeowner thinks it's closed and it never was. So we have to go back, try to find out what was actually done and go look at it and see if it passes the codes. And we have to reference the codes that when it was built. So we have to go back different code cycles and see what the codes actually said at that time.
And is there any way to see, I think you were asking this as well, like repeat offenders? Do you have notes in your system for certain contractors, or is there no way to track that and kind of implement financial fines for something like that? You know, because obviously they're taking up your time when you could have done it prior. Is there a way to kind of set the tone when you're starting off a project? You know, if you don't call us when the project ends, there's going to be a penalty here.
The people that I have repeat doing it, I usually tell them, hey, if I see this again, I'm going to consumer protection.
Okay.
Once we do that, then all of a sudden they call because all of a sudden they'll get a mark on their records. So if you go look up their numbers, or even Better Business, it'll show up that they have violations, they've had reprimands from consumer protection.
Okay.
And, you know, that usually does it. But I see what's happening right now is the contractors are so busy, they're just not finding the time to call.
Right.
Not that they shouldn't be, but.
Sure. Thank you for that. And then I saw in the report here that the Home Market Foods project has been put on hold. I don't know if this is current could you just maybe
What
briefly-
I've heard about that one, talking to the architect, is that they have another store in Norwood, Mass. I guess it's their main office, that something came up and they had to pull all their resources up there. Their permits are good for 6 months, and I know he had requested, he was talking about a chance for getting a refund, and our refund policy only allows up to 50% after a certain time, so they would have only gotten 50%. And I said to him, I says, permits are good, they expire after 6 months of not doing any work. So I said, if you're thinking of coming back, because he said they started talking about coming back in the fall. I said, if you're thinking about coming back, all you do is, after 5 months, send a couple guys there for a day or so, do something, and then call us for an inspection, and your permit's good for another 6 months. And that was 2 months ago, and I haven't heard anything back, so they're not, I think they're thinking about that, because I think they're really thinking about coming back, because otherwise they would have asked for the refund right away.
Now, you say coming back, you mean
To come back and do the work,
the
but
construction
after
crew,
they take
not-
care of the job in Norwood.
okay, not the organization as a whole. Okay.
Right.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Counselor Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Melanson. Like Mr. King and Mr. Maniscalco, I'm Syracuse. I'm concerned about the open orders not closing, and maybe that can be buttoned down by a better defined process, which you'd know better than I. Is there an initial fee for an inspection?
No. The fees we charge, the building permit fees includes the inspections. We don't charge anything more for whether we go back once, 3 times, 5 times. I know some towns do, but it's almost at the point where, if we start finding it a real problem, I think that's something we might want to look at, but,
Maybe it'd be time to say, tell you what, you guys get this right the first time, we're good, the second time, there's a fee.
yeah.
Because time is money, and we need to be efficient. And we also have a town and an environment that's worth people being in. So if you want to be here, you have to meet our standards. So I'd encourage that. What else do I have here? That was my main concern about the building codes. Thank you.
You're welcome. I can always look into that. I'll look into that about what a lot of towns are doing is if they allow them 2 strikes on the third, when they have to go out for a third re-inspection the third time, that's when a lot of towns will start charging. So,
Counselor Fitzgerald?
Hi.
hi.
When a new business is coming into town, do you coordinate with like the fire department, the public health department, depending on what the business is that's coming in? Like, what's the level of coordination with all of the different offices that we have here that have to, sign off on various inspections before a company can get their CO here?
Okay, what happens is when a company comes into town, a lot of times they'll go see the planning department and go through their process. When they apply for a permit, all permits come to our department after the taxes, and the taxes are verified. They come to our department, and we send them off to either, we figure out who needs to go, either health department, public works, engineering, the fire marshal's office, and we send off the permits to them. When it comes time for, once everybody's approved, by law, I can't sign off on a permit till all the other departments sign off. So I'm the last one to sign off. So once permit's approved, when it comes time for inspections, whether it's the health district, the fire marshal, or ourselves, my admin will set up an inspection. They'll call our office for inspection. She'll coordinate, she has everybody's calendar. She'll coordinate with the fire marshal, the health department, whoever else has to go out with us at the same time to do the inspections. And then we notify engineering and planning and zoning. When the inspections are done, they have to sign off before we issue a certificate of occupancy. By law, I can't issue that either. So what happens is we notify the other departments that, hey, the certificate of occupancy is getting ready to do it. If you guys, and there's part of the program will notify them that, hey, there's an inspection due. And once they sign off, then it comes to my desk, and I do the final sign-off once everybody else is signed off on it.
Okay. The only reason I was asking is I know I had run into a few months ago the general manager for the Hartford Baking Company.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, when are you opening in South Windsor? And he was like, oh, we're having all sorts of problems. We have this special dishwasher, and the health department says it's great because it, heats to, 185 degrees, so it kills all of the bacteria. And we thought we were all set. And then the building inspector came in and said, no, because the pipes in the ground are PVC, they're not metal, so you're gonna melt the pipes. So, now we want you to get this special piece. And so they were just a little frustrated that, like, they felt like they were getting like mixed messages from different areas of the town. So that's why I was just wondering kind of what the level of coordination is between the various departments that have to sign off on inspections.
No, usually we do joint inspections. I think at that time, the health district department also was short a person, so they could have been a little behind. As far as the piping, that had been known that it was needed. Some of the equipment they also received, they installed, was used, and some of it wasn't working correctly, so, Granted, it felt like we were always coming up with something, but every time you go back, it was,
Something else,
it
yeah.
still didn't, And we were going back on them. Like I said, everybody's been waiting for a week and a half for inspections. We were going back usually the same day they'd call and say it was all set. So when a business like that is trying to get through, we usually, push it to sneak in an inspection somewhere.
Cool. Thank you.
Counselor Pendleton?
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening and filling us in on what your department does. I would just like to say, and I'm not sure you got the message before, but I want to thank you and the staff within your department, including the administration, that helped with the upgrade of my home from 100 amp to 200 amp. And showing me on the permit and me learning on the permit that you need smoke detecters for every bedroom and a CO detector for every floor, and married to a firefighter, and that some do and some don't, okay? Just saying. And that made us also look at our fire extinguishers. So thank goodness one of our big box stores had a sale going on, and I bought 8 of everything. So we're all good now. And the inspector came, and it was a wonderful experience. The meter went in, but it wasn't the quite correct meter that Eversource wanted. So my contractor flew out, got the correct one, brought back, put it in. Your inspector came back within 15 minutes of him putting it in, and everything was all good to go. And I praise your department highly for their kindness and understanding and speaking to me and dealing with me with my firemen, where they got a good chuckle out of it. So I just want to say thank you. And I think you guys are doing a fabulous job with everything and all the new developments within our community. And I think you're doing a great job. And thank you for being here. And Mr. Maniscalco, I have a question. Could you do a follow-up with Whole Market Foods and maybe just touch base with them on the extension that they could get? That wasn't a proper sentence, I'm sorry. But if they went in and did some work and then get the extension, their 6 months extension, if you could just touch base with them to keep a personal contact with them?
Yes, we've been in communication with them pretty regularly, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Thank you. Thank you again.
Oh, by the way, I'm a retired fireman for 25 years.
Oh, see, so you're
My
smiling.
house
You're
is the same
enjoying
way.
this, right?
Yeah, and we have to check that because that's a new state law that came out.
Right, and we
That-
even looked up the NFAA ruling, or, the National Firefighters Association
Right.
ruling on that, which I love to learn, and that was a wonderful thing to learn. And even some friends of ours had more work done on their furnace and broken water pipes, and I said, listen to me, go buy the detectors for the bedrooms and everything for your house, like, just do it, because it's on the permit. So I love that. I love that it's there. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, see nothing further. I think you're all set, Mark. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you very much.
Very interesting. Thank you.
And I'd like to invite Fire Marshal Summers up to give a brief about his department.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Our office has 3 full-time employees and 1 part-time. We do have 1 opening right now. We have extended an offer to a person, and hopefully they'll be on board by April. The Fire Marshal's office has 3 main responsibilities. First, we have to do plan reviews in conjunction, like Mark said, with the building department and approve construction plans. We also work closely, as Mark said, with the planning department when a prospective developer wants to come in and develop a piece of land. Michelle does a very good job about getting the groups together to meet with the developer, so there's no surprises when they finally reach P&Z. Second is we do fire investigation. Everybody kind of understands that. And then third is annual inspections. We have over 2,500 apartments, and we're going to add some more, obviously, and over 800 businesses in town that we inspect. I am also part of my job for the Connecticut Fire Marshals Association. I'm their co-legislative representative. So it'll be busy season coming up here for us down at the legislature, and we'll be seeing Tom quite a bit. And also, I'm on the code writing committee for the Fire Prevention Code, and that is in code update cycle right now. Recent work for us, we've been we started inspecting Metro properties. We started with Berry Patch. We're working with their maintenance crews. We go through Watson Farms and Hillcrest with them. We've been through the independent living recently at Evergreen Walk, and today we did Cambria Hotel. Next week we start Mill on the River. It's up there next on our list for apartment inspections, so Seth has set them up for starting next week. Obviously, you've seen all the construction down at the Evergreen Walk area, also all the new stores down there, and Club Studio is almost, they're about 95%, so we're keeping them moving along. We had 2 fires in town in January. As you know, I've been working with the town of Windsor to keep the administrative work for the fire marshal's office going over there. We've been opening new businesses down at 150 Sullivan, a couple others on Sullivan and throughout the town. And we've been coordinating with Connecticut Water and MDC. They both have water main replacement projects coming up this spring. MDC has a rather large one out here on Sullivan because they're going to be repaving Sullivan. I also do emergency management, and in there we've been working on a tabletop exercise for every department. We're going to do I call it a town-wide, but town department tabletop exercise down at the EOC. We had our first planning meeting this week with department heads, and that'll be going on April. We've been working on the tracks, Dart Hill and VMP radio communication projects. You've seen the tower up at Dart Hill. We do have placement on there, 0 charge. And tracks is under design. And we worked with the town manager and the finance department. We purchased 2 light towers and a grapple for emergency management and use during emergency. We appreciate that effort at the end of December. And we finished applying for our 2024 EMPG grant. That's about a $14,000 grant we get every year from the state. Some of the challenges that we are facing is to obviously maintain current staffing would be helpful because we do have a lot of projects coming up that's going to add to our inventory, and succession planning are going to be the challenges for us. I do have my budget meeting tomorrow with the town manager. We'll see how that goes. But if you have any questions for me, I can certainly answer them.
Councilor King?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate it, Walter, for you being here. The opening that you have that you're hoping to fill is for what? What position?
So we had one of our fire inspectors took another position in another town in December. He'd been with us for about 18 months, and he's moved on. So we did an advertisement and testing. We do have a candidate. He's accepted the offer.
Okay.
We're waiting for an official start date from him.
Awesome. Did you happen to do an exit interview with the person that left and moved on?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
An exit interview to know why, you said he was moving on, but to know why they moved on?
So that's an HR policy. I don't know.
You don't.
I
No.
do not do exit interviews. That's
Okay.
an HR policy.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So the challenges that you have with maintaining staff, so then you don't know why. What are the challenges that you have to maintain staff? If it has to go through HR and you don't know why.
So, as any, well, the fire marshal community and more so the building community are really short of inspectors.
Okay.
The fire marshal community is a tough position to fill. The quality of candidates are, they're coming out of the class are not that, it's tough to fill it and get a qualified person in here that you feel comfortable, putting out in the field. On the building side, there's many building departments in the state that cannot fill their positions because the students that are in the class do get their certification, but the construction industry is so good, they will continue in the construction industry until that comes down.
Okay.
I think it's important to note as well, Mr. Summers has a long history as a fairly well-known fire marshal within the state, and I think fortunate and unfortunate for us, we somewhat tend to be a training ground for a number of individuals who have come through our department. So as he mentioned, they went on to another town or another job at the state. I think I can think off the top of my head of at least 3 that's happened with in my tenure. So people come in, they work with Mr. Summers, they get their feet, firmly planted on the ground along with their certifications and everything else, and then pretty soon they're a hot commodity with some other communities, so.
So would you suggest then, based off of that we're talking about finances? Usually I'm only 50, I've only had several years, but I'm just wondering, usually if I have a great boss, I'll stay with that great boss, just going off of.
So,
It's not me, I'm not doing it.
so just looking at fire inspector salaries, I think we're in a pretty good position.
Okay.
I don't know how to,
I would suggest
Properly answer
the
that
issue,
for you.
I think the issue is more that you have a fire marshal and you have people who are doing training to become a fire marshal. There's no upward mobility for people
Okay.
unless they leave.
Okay.
right? So I think that's the bigger challenge.
Okay, see, there you go, ask and answer. That's why I was asking about an exit interview, because if somebody says, I don't have upward mobility, that's the easy answer. I can dig it.
correct.
So there we go. And that's probably what's going to lead you into your conversation tomorrow about succession planning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Counselor Pendleton?
Thank you. VMP, did you get any more cell service on that tower?
So currently, we're under contract. We do have a signed lease with Verizon, and it's executed. They are waiting for approval from one other agency so they can start construction. The problem was that we didn't have a hole in the tower at their height, so they had to get the manufacturer approval, and now they're up for one more approval to cut the hole in the towers. And then we're waiting for them to commence work very shortly.
Thank you.
That's one.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. It's been what, 2 years? Or longer? I don't even know. 3 years?
Yeah, it's been a lot of work on that, and we got one, so, yeah, it's good.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay. So another question, just to follow up, because I ran into this person the other day. A few months ago, a resident contacted me concerning a church and fire marshal issues, and I turned around to you, and then she went to you, and you know what I'm referring to?
Yes.
And just to maybe get back with her, in touch with her.
She is working, she submitted some paperwork to move that forward. That is in the hand of the state building official and state fire marshal.
Okay.
Her proposal.
Okay.
So we're waiting for that answer
Thank you.
to move forward.
She just questioned me the other day, and
It's
refreshed
been
my
submitted,
memory.
and we're waiting for our response from the state.
Great.
Yep.
If you could just touch base with her maybe and just let her know. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Seeing nothing further, thank you all. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
No problem.
Okay, moving on to item 7.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. I had a question for the town manager.
Oh, I didn't see your light on, Counselor Lewis.
I didn't have it on because I thought he just went from his report right into their reports, and I was
Okay.
waiting for the process.
Okay,
Thank
Counselor
you.
Lewis.
I was concerned about the damage to Rice Street Park. Do you have an idea of what the cost of repairs are, and do you have any idea who the offenders are, and is there a plan to prevent this from happening in the future?
Sure, so I don't have a cost yet. I will get that for you after it's completed. In terms of offenders, we really don't know who did it. And there's no cameras up there or any of that, so. But I have had some conversations with the Parks and Rec director. Well, maybe what we need to do is actually start closing the park on a more regular basis to keep people out of there when they shouldn't be there. So, for example, when it snows, they shouldn't be in there tearing it up. This is not the first time we've had issues with the fields and ruts and things of that nature. I remember maybe 2 years ago, we had a soccer tournament during a lot of rain, and the soccer tournament pretty much destroyed the whole park. I want to say that was in about $10,000 range to fix it, something around there. So we'll have to take a look.
I'd like to suggest that we make those numbers public, because the neighbors, if they know it's being, because someone knows who they are.
Sure.
Right, and they're likely to be younger people, but not guaranteed. But somebody, and how many people have those machines that can do that in town? So I would imagine perhaps our police chief could find out who they are. But
Sure thing.
thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you. Moving on to item 7, public input for items on the agenda. Public input shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item on the agenda. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to come forward at this time for items on the agenda? Mr. DeSantia. Can you turn the mic on? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark DeSantia, 39 Debbie Drive, South Windsor, Connecticut. I lived here all my life. The item on the agenda tonight, I'd like to talk about item C, the resolution regarding the Board of Education. I think right now, I'm not here to dispute the contract or the 3% raise that the teachers got. I'm dispute on right now is the transparency of what took place there, and also being dishonest to the hardworking taxpayers of South Windsor. They had an agreement. They signed an agreement with the contract December 3rd, I believe. They updated it on their website, I believe, January 13th, and here it is, it's February 2nd. During that time, we had to come up with a resolution on item C, which is the Connecticut General Statute. And I feel that here we are, we're having a Connecticut General Statute being put on a resolution where I think our Board of Education and our superintendent should have been on this game. I don't know what the other, terms of the other councils did as far as accepting, contracts. But, listen, we're all good taxpayers in the town. I think we support the school system, but let's be a little bit more transparent, number one. And you know what? If you do sign a contract, you got 30 days. I know it was the holiday season, but that's not an excuse. So once again, I think maybe we're creating a monster right now. We're creating a monster with Kate Carter and the Board of Education for a lack of communication throughout the town when it comes to the taxpayers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward at this time? Anyone else for items on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, moving on to item 8, adoption of minutes of previous meeting. Councilor Pendleton.
Approval of the January 21st, 2025 Town Council regular meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of January 21st, 2025.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion, changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. And moving on to item 9, communications from liaisons, officers, boards directly responsible to the council. Councilor Gansky.
We sure? Yeah.
Yes, sure, I'm sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quickly, I attended the Economic Development Commission meeting at the end of January. Not a lot going on at this time of year, but they are moving forward with a stripped-down version of the local business registry directory that they've been talking about for a while. They're starting some grassroots campaigns to get that out into the public or business community, and we'll see what kind of responses we start to get back from that. We'll continue to report.
Great, thank you. Counselor King?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Real quickly, the Social Justice and Racial Equity Commission, they have their second annual Social Justice Day on Thursday, February 20th, 2025. I believe that is the date.
Thursday.
Again, that's Thursday, February 20th, 2025. It's their second one.
Okay, February 20th is a popular day for things. Okay, thank you. Counselor Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the WPCA, there was a approval to connect the 260 Nutmeg Road for Julie's Barks and Bubbles. I wanted to mention it because it's just wonderful when a local business is growing and doing better. So she's been moving to a new facility and welcomes all her old customers to follow her. The WPCA has also began their discussions over the budget season, and they're working on that and what the new rates will be. And as I just want to mention to you that they also have currently 3 pump stations to be upgraded, which will substantially increase the debt service, as they're going to borrow approximately $11 million. This is in the future, but I just thought we should know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Fitzgerald?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to report that I attended the Board of Education meeting last week. Dr. Carter presented her budget, which I think we all got a copy of in our packets this week. But that was the big item on the agenda, was her presentation of the budget, which was extremely thorough.
Great, thank you very much. Counselor Carey?
So I attended open space meeting, and they have forwarded some information on the Draghi property to the town manager. Also attended planning and zoning, and they had 3 public hearings last Tuesday. 2 of those closed. One was the trailways for the recreation department. One was a small issue with someone on Route 5. The third was the solar array at the Draghi property. And so what planning and zoning decided to do was to leave that public hearing open so that they could get more comments from residents. So that will still be open for for the next planning and zoning meeting. They did make a decision on the trailways. They approved that, and they approved the Route 5. So the important thing is that if you want comments on the solar array on the Draghi property, there is still an open public hearing for planning and zoning.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I actually take my dog to Julie Barks and Bubbles, and I did not know that she was moving, so thank you for letting me know that in case I go to the wrong place. But I do want to just congratulate Julie. She does a phenomenal job. She's got it seems like 100 dogs there every single day when I bring my dog there, so congratulations to her.
Okay. No one else? Nothing further on item 9? Moving on to item 10, reports from committees. Okay, I have one piece. It's regarding the Budget Working Group. I'd like to report that there's a slight change to the membership of the Budget Working Group. Councilor Balboni informed me that he'd like to step down from the working group due to work commitments. So the working group will now be, Councilor Balboni will be replaced by Councilor Boganski. So it's going to be Councilor Boganski, Councilor Carey, and Councilor King. Okay, moving on to item 11, consent agenda. Item 11A1 through 11A2. Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve 11A1 through 11A2 as a first reading on the consent agenda.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to 11B1. Councilor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve 11B1 as a second reading on the consent agenda. Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to 11C. Having none. Item 12, unfinished business. Having none. Moving on to 13A, discussion item, Route 5, Public Safety. It was requested by Counselor Balboni, who's not here. So Chief Lindstrom and Vincent Stetson are here to present.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and fellow councilors. I'm Vincent Stetson, Director of Public Works, and here to speak to the Route 5 safety audit. This idea came about last July. I don't know if you folks recall, but Route 5 was shut down for about 48 hours because of a car accident. And kind of took a look at the metrics, and Route 5 is shut down quite often because of car accidents. And in my opinion, it's probably one of the, it's data-driven. It's the most busy road that we have in town. So obviously, it's going to have the most accidents. But there's something that we should do. And on August 23rd, road safety audit application submitted with political support letter from the town of South Windsor Town Council. And then on February 27th, we received notice from them and got together and had a field safety audit performed with Connecticut DOT and their consultant firm, along with the town staff from the engineering department, planning and zoning department, street services department, and the police department. It was in several months later that we received the draft road safety audit report, and they asked for comment. It's a 65-page document. I'm not going to go into all the particulars, but the takeaway that I had and the chief along with me was that every suggestion from this road safety audit, the impetus was on town staff to engage with the state to create any of the changes. So we explored that a little bit, wrote them a letter kind of questioning it, and we heard back on September 20th, 2024, a response from Connecticut DOT to our concerns of responsibility and engagement relative to the safety improvements to Route 5, with some directive to solicit our CROG or LoCIP programs to find grant funding. Excuse me. On November 4th, town staff, comprised of the chief of police, town engineer, superintendent of streets, and director of public works, met with Connecticut DOT staff at DOT headquarters in Newington, along with CROG staff, to discuss the next steps. And at this meeting, we again revisited that all these action items, the impetus would be on the town. The state, in their defense, they've got 140 other towns, and they said that this is their process. November 13th, we were notified by Connecticut DOT staff that they would be reviewing the traffic signal timing on Route 5 in South Windsor to adjust for safety improvements. We went further with this. We had a meeting with CROG on December 12th, town engineering staff, to explore applying for a RAISE grant, which is Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. And this would be to perform a planning study in an effort to apply for additional construction grants in the future. It's important to note here that any of these grants would require a sizable financial commitment from the town of South Windsor's taxpayers. We have inquired with Connecticut DOT staff if there were any funding opportunities for them to cover the cost share of a planning grant, seeing it's a state-owned infrastructure. We have yet to hear a response, and we did not pursue a grant due to just funding constraints and the logic that South Windsor residents shouldn't be paying for improvements to DOT infrastructure. And here we are today, giving you guys a briefing about the current status, and I personally hope that the state will find some funding to help us, because this is a long drawn-out process. The road safety audit was the first domino to fall. After that, they need a planning study, which involves a lot of surveying and just looking at all the different parcels and the different levels that they can pull. And then after that, you need to go out and find the money to actually make the improvements. So it's grant opportunity after grant opportunity, but with the town having to fund, the cost share of that, which is anywhere, from 10 to 20%, depending on the grant. Here's the close.
In conclusion, no, good evening. Thanks for having us. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on some of what Vincent said and offer a little bit of statistical support to really either side of the argument. What the road safety audit did was it broke the recommendations down into really three categories. They defined them as least complex, moderately complex, and most complex. And of course, as you can imagine, as the complexity increases, so does the price tag. To give you an example, they broke Route 5 into, really they identified the major sections, right? So not the smaller ones. An example of a smaller one would be Route 5 at Newberry or Route 5 at Bidwell. Those are smaller, they're not governed by lights. The big ones are Sullivan and Route 5, Route 5 and Strong Road, Route 5 in Pleasant Valley, Route 5 in Chapel, and then Ellington Road / 291 and Route 5. There are some that they applied general the least complex recommendations to all those intersections. They applied some moderately complex changes or recommendations to all the areas and most complex. So as an example, one of the least complex that they recommended to all those areas is to restripe the travel lanes. To make sure that we have 11-foot travel lanes, 10-foot turn lanes, 4-foot minimum right-hand shoulders, and 2-foot minimum left-hand shoulders. If we escalate to the moderately complex recommendations, one of them would be to install pedestrian refuge islands, and they recommended that for all those intersections. And then an example of the most complex recommendation would be to construct restricted crossing U-turns. So what they're trying to do is eliminate left-hand turns at those intersections and construct areas where you can make a legal U-turn. That's going to have quite a price tag because I imagine there'll be median cuts and things like that. Other things that they recommended, the lane management restriping, staggering stop bars at crosswalks, adjusting signal timing, all that stuff is fairly low cost, and they sprinkle those out depending on the needs of each of those intersections I mentioned earlier. And then the moderately complex, I mentioned installing pedestrian refuge islands, also creating green medians with plantings and things like that. Installing ADA compliant sidewalks, curb ramps, and landings. Again, you can see how now we're kind of escalating cost. And install landings at bus stops where there are public transit stops. Most complex, constructing the restricted U-turn areas, constructing a hybrid roundabout. They suggested that at Route 5 and Sullivan Avenue, which I think would be an astronomical cost. And then the last most complex recommendation was to pursue access management for adjacent property owners, referencing specifically Route 5 at Pleasant Valley Road. One thing that I want to mention, and I know that it's important to everyone in the room and everyone in town, is that we're making empirically based decisions. I understand the frustration when Route 5 gets shut down. My understanding is I drive down Route 5 up and down several times a week, and because I'm a police officer, not a firefighter, I forget exactly, but I think the fire hydrants are only on one side of the road. So when there's a crash with any type of fire response where they're laying hoses across Route 5, they're shutting it down. Because they have to get hoses from one side to the other. And then we're at the mercy of the schedule and when we can lift those hoses and reopen the road. The one long-term closing we had that Vincent referenced, I believe, was several poles taken down. When one went down, it pulled others down, and we had no choice but to close the road for a while. But in general terms, today, in anticipation of tonight's meeting, I just pulled some stats for the last year. So February 3rd, 2024 through today. In town total, we had a total of 304 car accidents in that year, so almost one a day, not on Route 5, townwide. On Route 5, we had 46. So of those 304, 46 were on Route 5. When you parcel out the more severe accidents and look at accidents with injuries, and injuries can range anywhere from a complaint of chest pain, a complaint of neck pain, all the way up to major serious physical injury. Then we had townwide in that same time frame, 83 crashes, and of those, 14 were on Route 5. So in the last 365 days, you're looking at 14 crashes on Route 5 that involve some level of injury. The next thing I think that's important, yes.
I need to interrupt you for one moment because we need to suspend the regular council meeting for our public hearing at 8 o'clock, which is right now. So
I was just getting going.
I know, but
I was about to hit you with the big,
I
here it
know,
is.
but state
Oh, boy.
statute says I
don't
gotta
know.
pause the meeting.
I guess we have to look at the rules again. No, that's fine. I'll
Thank you. We are going to suspend the regular town council meeting for our public hearing. The public hearing is to receive citizen input on the revisions to the town charter. Mrs. Senerth, if you could please read the public notice.
To be published in the Journal Enquirer, January 24th, 2025, legal ad, Town of South Windsor. Notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Town Council hereby sets Monday, February 3rd, 2025 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Ave, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on revisions to the town charter. Dated at South Windsor, Connecticut, this 22nd day of January 2025, attested to by Catherine Senerth, Executive Assistant.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council during this public hearing regarding the revisions to the town charter? Is there anyone who would like to come forward at this time? Mr. Dillon? Or? Okay.
Hi. My name is Ray Paulin. I live at 25 Mohegan Trail in South Windsor. I'm here to speak to the Charter Revision Commission's report and planned referendum. I quickly perused the report and believe that it would be helpful to have an upfront summary statement listing the changes approved for referendum and those rejected. It might read like this, and I'll give my take on the ones that I've flagged. Approved proposed change. Substitute gender-neutral language. My take, I disagree. Replacing he with they, or otherwise mating plural pronouns with singular verbs to be politically correct is much ado about nothing. Where the U.S. Constitution refers to the President of the United States, that person is referred to as he. When a woman is elected President of the United States, undoubtedly, she will not claim that constitutional presidential provisions do not apply to her because the Constitution says he. If it's good enough for the U.S. Constitution, it ought to be good enough for the South Windsor Charter. I oppose this on the grounds that our charter needs to be grammatically, not politically correct. Rejected proposed changes. Change the town council term from 2 years to 4 years. My take, I agree. It's bad enough to have to wait 1.5 years to vote the bums out of office when they have gone back on their election word. A 3.5-year wait would be unacceptable. Another rejected proposed change, the annual budget, both the town and the school, should be approved in referendum rather than by the town council. My take, I disagree. Referendum drawbacks cited include the cost, which the commission chairman estimated at $15,000 per referendum vote. Folks, we're talking about a $150 million budget. 15,000 is 0.001% of the budget, and that's lost in the rounding. Even if it takes 10 referendum votes for approval, the cost is 0.01% of the budget. And shame on the town manager, the school superintendent, and the town council for being so out of touch with town residents to have that ever happen. Even if the voter turnout is only 10%, that's 1,000 votes rather than just 9. Another drawback for a referendum vote is cited as the residents are uninformed. Actually, a townwide referendum would serve as a check on town officials. It was the town council that preceded you that was so uninformed that it voted to keep the tax mill rate the same despite double-digit revaluation of property values. The resulting outcome of double-digit property tax increases is why a majority of you, and not them, are sitting on the council today. So tell me who was uninformed, the residents or the town council? It's only fair to have a referendum vote on each approved proposal rather than an all or nothing referendum. Otherwise, a single negative vote would cause the referendum to fail without telling why. However, you cannot expect and don't want voters standing in the voting booth reading through each of the commission's approved proposals, so they need to be grouped into a handful of proposals. A grouping example might be updating the name of Recreation Department to Department of Parks and Recreation, followed by all the applicable text changes that go with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to come forward? Mr. Dillon?
I'd like to go on record as saying I don't know this gentleman that just spoke, but he speaks very well and he's very intelligent. And the reason I say that is because I'm here to speak to you about the referendum proposal that was turned down apparently by the committee. The process for charter revision started approximately 2 years ago, because I remember the big battle about getting it in before the change of parties. Since the charter revision began, I have been before this council twice, if not 3 times, in a charter revision committee once, if not twice. The Alzheimer's may be kicking in, the numbers might be off a little. At those times, I advocated for an inclusion of a referendum question after the budget process is completed each year. The referendum will be every year after the town council decides on a proposed budget and votes on it. A week or 2 later, whatever's appropriate, it will then go to the taxpayer. And there will be a referendum vote as to whether or not they accept the budget increase the town council has put forward. If the taxpayer votes no, then the process starts again. If they vote yes, the process is over, the taxpayer has accepted your budget. You would do it in a single polling place to cut down on costs. If the taxpayer votes down the budget, it has to be reduced by 2%. That 2% does not need to come from one all slice of pie. I have been told, after I heard that this was going on this week, tonight, I made a few phone calls. I've been told that it was not going to be up for a recommendation. I was also told that Well, the town side is really bleeding that we've cut what we could from that budget. I don't tell you where to cut the budget, but the budget would need to be cut. You can cut it all from the town side. You could cut it all from the Board of Education side. That's the town council's responsibility. As this process goes on, we get a budget that passes. You, the council, this council, you won't see charter revision for another 40, 50, 60 years. Probably. I'll be dead. You have the ability to leave a lasting legacy for the taxpayers of this town, to let them decide the level of services that they request. Now, it may be in my favor. I may agree with the votes until we get down to a budget. It may also go against me. That's what happens when you have a majority rules. As it goes now, you would be then given the taxpayer a chance to be heard by vote. At present, it's 9 individuals. What if they're the wrong 9 individuals? The reason that most of the council is on this board is because of a 10.2, don't get me in the weeds, could have been 10 million, increase of a town budget 2 years ago. This town went crazy. They elected Republicans in a place where Republicans don't get elected. You have a responsibility to the towns. It's a very large decision, but it can't be put in the hands of 9 individuals or 6 of a supermajority. The council will be making a decision as to where the budget will be reduced. The bottom line is that without this referendum added to the town charter, the taxpayer could get really, really shook. Now, we had a $10 million increase a couple of years ago. What if there's a $15 million increase and it's a supermajority of a party, any party? Do you think the town can survive that? I'm told that we are too heavily taxed on the residential side and not the business side. Well, that all goes down to planning and zoning, how we run this town as a government, what you're allowed to become into this town. And if you're going to go on the residential, it can't be sustained. This is really not even for me. My son and his family live in this home, in this town, and it is my wish that they can afford to live here reasonably, without tax increases of $200, $300, $400 in future years. Because that's what it's shaping up to be. The Board of Education has not figured it out. They put in for a 6% increase. It's your responsibility to pull the reins back. You can't tell Kate Carter where to spend money. And I've called for an actuarial audit as to the exact expenditure, not that Tom Dillon's not stealing from the checkbook, the actual expenditure of monies that go to the Board of Ed. That is your bully pulpit. To tell her we need an actual audit of how it's spent, where it's spent, and is it justified? I'm guessing it's not really that justified. We could make reductions. Now, I got 2 grandkids coming up in this system. I don't want a crap system, but it needs to be a reasonable system that people can afford. The taxes on my son's house is going to surpass the mortgage payment, the principal and interest. That's not sustainable. And I got him in there before the rise in real estate, thank God. Okay? It's not sustainable for the residents. Now, if we need to do something on the other side, that's great, but give us the option to say yes or no to a tax increase. That can be the legacy of the Republicans in the 2024-25 board, if nothing else. I look on the back wall and I see legacies. Mitchell, Havens, Caffin. They all would have passed this. They all cared about this town and the taxpayer. It's getting out of control, and a referendum question for the budget in the town charter allows us the ability to have a say after even people that don't pay attention. Holy crap, there's a $10 million increase? That's why you guys are here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Anyone else who'd like to come forward at this time regarding the revision? Yes, Mr. DeCiancia.
Mark DeCiancia, 39 Debbie Drive. I did attend one of the charter hearings, and I brought a lot to the table. But one of them that I'm having a little difficulty to talking about is tax evaluation. We had a tax reevaluation in 2017, and then we had the bump in the road with COVID, and then we had one in 2022. We have one coming up very shortly in 2027. I can remember when I bought my first house, I wasn't home, and the individual called me from the tax department to set up an appointment. He came in my house, he did evaluation of my house, he actually measured my deck, which is in relative to all this. Why I'm saying this is we do not have a bedroom count in the town of South Windsor. By not having a bedroom count in the town of South Windsor, we're at the point now our services are out of control. We can't keep up with senior citizens. We can't keep up with public safety. The fire department is probably going to be, sooner or later, is going to have to have some paid guys. Let's get real here, guys. The schools are busting at the seams, and yet we do not want to have a budget referendum. That upsets me. But here we are. Let's get back to the important stuff. You know, we had Mark and Walt talk tonight. I can speak dearly from my heart. They're going to need more help because they're not going to be able to enforce the codes that the state of Connecticut are coming on. When you look at the non-bedroom count, maybe we should put some rules in there. If you're working without a permit, $500. I don't care if you're a resident. I don't care if you're a builder. It's a $500 thing. Until you start hurting people's pockets, they're not going to do anything. So what is the true bedroom count? We don't have a true bedroom count. Maybe we should start looking in, maybe we should start looking at the state, talking to the state legislator, and maybe start going back to the old days of a real evaluation. Because
Excuse me,
let me tell you something.
Mr. DeCiancia, do
When
you
you
want
have-
that? Do you want that in the charter? I mean, because this is actually on the charter, so
Yeah,
you're.
it is on
you
the
see
charter. It already says that I can't do it. So I'm going to bring it up anyway, so you can hear it. That night, I was told, you can't do that by the charter committee. But what I'm saying is, if we have a true bedroom account,
But
we
we're
could-
on the charter revision.
Yeah,
so-
that's on my tax evaluation, is having a true bedroom count. If you have a true bedroom count, you can start taxing more on people that are being dishonest on how many bedrooms they have.
Are you proposing for this to be in the charter?
Absolutely. So we went from COVID, we went from 2 bedrooms to 3 bedroom houses. We went from 3 bedroom houses to 4 bedroom houses. We have houses in this community now that probably have 5 bedrooms. The police department, fire department punches up, 5 bedrooms. They get there, they have bedrooms downstairs. We have no bedroom count. So how do you expect to have a budget every year that's going to stay within the guidelines of the inflation when you have no bedroom count? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward at this time regarding the charter revision? Do any of the councilors have any questions for the members of the Charter Revision Committee? Because they're here if you have any questions. Councilor Fitzgerald?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you to the commission and to the co-chairs and the other members of the committee. I think it's a very thorough review of the charter, and like their changes are laid out and their explanations for why they wanted changes, why they didn't make changes is all in there. So I thank you guys very much for all of your efforts.
Councilor Carey?
So I have a letter to read in about the charter revisions, but I also want to thank the Charter Commission. You guys did a great job. I know you spent a lot of time on it and, really did a lot of research. So thank you very much for everything. So this is from a town resident, Stephanie Dexter. She's unfortunately can't be here tonight. She started by wanting to thank the Charter Revision Commission for their many, many months of work and research to submit the final draft to our town council for approval. And Her comments were on Section 203, town offices. I do not agree with removing the town treasurer, understanding that every TT isn't as involved as the next, but I do believe that the town needs an independent elected person to question a host of financial data and decisions. Section 204, terms of office and minority representation. Regarding P&Z, planning and zoning, let me be clear that P&Z needs to stay a 4-year term, but there should be a change to the charter that gives every municipal election ballot enough openings available to vote on in order to change the majority on this commission every 2 years. The way it is now, the majority can only change every 4 years and not every 2 like the town council or BOE. Section 204, I am not sure that changing the town clerk from an elected position to an appointed one by the town manager is in our best interest. I understand that the town clerk must be certified and experienced. The current town clerk staff is certified or working towards certification, so in that case of a vacancy, there shouldn't be an issue with certified coverage. I also feel that for the sake of voter transparency and election accuracy, having both the registrar of voters and the town clerk with a direct line to the Secretary of State is appropriate. Section 301, the council, I agree with the removal of the $75 stipend for the mayor and to require expenses be submitted for reimbursement, but feel that monthly is too frequent. I would suggest quarterly to reduce extra work for the staff. Section 609, town attorney. I'm pushing back on the appointment of the town attorney by the town manager. It seems that we all know we need to hire a town attorney that works for a law firm that has other attorneys on staff that have expertise in all areas of town government, so not rocket science. I just feel that the town attorney should not have any relationship or appreciation for being hired by any town manager. Section 704, budget referendum. I don't feel we need a budget referendum, but we may want to allow for a referendum for budgets that exceed a specific percentage. If not 3%, which lately is a good tax increase, maybe 5% or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carey. Councilor Balboni?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too have a letter that was sent in, this one by Kathy Doherty of 60 Madison Way. In response to the report of the Charter Revision Committee, I would like to comment on the following areas. Town offices, including town treasurer, town attorney, town clerk. These positions must remain autonomous. This will provide checks and balances within our town. Currently, the town manager has control over all departments. Having people that have no loyalty or do not need to bend to the will of the town manager will allow greater transparency. It is my belief that there was a reason these positions were excluded from creating an empire. The town clerk, keeping this position independent is crucial, especially regarding election integrity and administration. In addition, it is imperative the individual reside in the town they support. To be a certified town clerk, you must first work in a town clerk's office. Therefore, it is impossible to get a certified town clerk unless they are already employed in such a way. The town should be looking to change that through CROG and allow people to take the training in hope of landing a job. The town attorney, reporting to the town council instead of the town manager, ensures that legal advice remains impartial and serves the broader interests of the town and not just the administration. The town treasurer, oversight of finances should remain directly accountable to the people, ensuring transparency and accountability in both the education and municipal budgets. The wording should be strengthened to require both finance departments to be accountable to the town treasurer and provide all information as needed. Also, there should be a requirement that the treasurer have a financial background. Section 204, terms of office and minority representation. There should never be a chance to vote out an individual with every municipal election. Elected officials are elected to represent the people. Not having a way to vote out people that are not serving your interests is not acceptable. The charter should give every municipal election ballot enough openings available to vote on in order to change the majority. Section 301, the council. No elected official, including the mayor, should be given a stipend. All expenses should be submitted for reimbursement. Section 704, budget referendum. Despite the fact we have had substantial budget increases lately, I am not in favor of a budget referendum. People are elected to study the budget and bring in a budget that would be within people's ability to pay. By putting it to a referendum, essentially you are asking if you want a tax increase. I doubt people are going to take the time to understand the underlying reason. Constables, it should be written into the charter that the primary responsibility of the constable is to collect taxes. The finance department should be required to use these individuals to do that. Minimally give them 90 days before getting outside help, and in most cases, out-of-town help, i.e. the marshal, which is now what is happening. It would be similar to being elected to town council, but the manager goes to another town to get permission to do things. Thank you, Kathy Doherty.
Thank you. Anyone further for comments at this time? Okay, at this time, I'll call.
May I
Yes.
just ask about that letter?
Oh, yes.
I didn't see a copy of that in
And
our
neither
packet.
did I.
Could we get a copy of that? You didn't get that? Could we get that, please, and get copies? Thank you.
No? Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. And since this is a public hearing, we're just going to close the public hearing because at our next meeting, we will be having another public hearing. So at this time, we'll resume our regular meeting. And 8:26. Okay. And Chief, back at you.
I'm back. So what I was going to say is that I think that before the town decides that they're going to invest money into any of the recommendations put forth by DOT, it's important that we correlate the improvements you're paying for with reducing crashes. And when you look at the causes of crashes perennially in town, across town, every year since that I can remember, the leading cause of crashes is following too close. So when you look at some of these recommendations and something as simple as adjusting lane dimensions, I don't know that that correlates with following too close. How do we curtail that? How do we reduce accidents caused by following too close? If you have any answers, let me know, because it's very difficult to stop someone for following too close when the reason we give them at the accident is they say, how do you know I was following too close? And we say, well, because your car is stuffed into the car in front of it. That's when we know. So my point is, let's make sure before we invest money, lots of money potentially into some of these things, that we're doing so for the right reasons and that they're going to have an impact on crashes. You know, some of the installing sidewalks, staggering stop bars to accommodate angled crosswalks. I don't see a lot of pedestrian activity on Route 5. I don't see a lot of bicycle activity on Route 5. There are mechanisms out there, such as crosswalks, to help people when they do want to cross. There's a median that will get them to the halfway point. So the DOT referenced improvements being made to address all modes of transportation, car, bicycle, and pedestrian. And you can go up and down Route 5 ad nauseum, and you're not going to see many bicycles or pedestrians. And if they're pedestrians, they're usually walking to the next gas station because they ran out of gas somewhere. And if the police see that, they'll pick them up and give them a lift and get them off the roadway as best we can. So that's really what I wanted to discuss. I'm happy to answer any questions. The RSA, the road safety audit, was voluminous. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of finer points and a lot of lingo and engineering discussions and things that are beyond the scope of what I do. But I do think that it's important to look at the volume of crashes, where they are, where they occur in town, and what the severity of those crashes are, and what causes them. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
What's the volume of crashes by I think it's Governor's Highway where the Pride Station is?
What's the volume of crashes there?
Is there do you have a number for that area?
Not in front of me.
Because I know at one time Councilor Pendleton brought up the idea of those signs that say stop ahead, because people get behind the tractor trailers and they don't see.
Mm-hmm. That would be some of the, adjusting the light timing and things like that.
Okay.
Part of that is following too close, right? I mean, you can't follow so close that you can't see what's coming or what's happening. How often is that happening? How often is it happening in that intersection? I'd have to go back and drill down on that particular intersection on the map and see what it is. I know that the red light, the delays on those lights are long, and they're long because the speeds are higher, the speed limit is higher. There's a lot of volume on that road, but when you look at a heat map of crashes on Route 5 compared to crashes between this building and the town line on Buckland, by volume, I think it's arguable that there's more crashes between here and the town line on Buckland than there are on the length of Route 5. I mean, if you look at, like I said, if you look at that heat map, they're really congested into this area here and the southern half of Buckland Road. Route 5 is spread out a little bit more. A lot of their recommendations, I think, are somewhat counterintuitive because, again, the same heat map is going to show you a batch of crashes that occur south of 291 on Route 5, and very few, if any, of their recommendations are targeting that area. So I would encourage the town to, as we move forward and look at trying to improve traffic flow and increase roadway safety on Route 5, that you make sure that what you're paying for is going to, in fact, have the desired impact and potentially avoid unintended results.
Who does the timing? Who goes there and goes in the box and changes the timing?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not in the box, it's all computerized, and it's DOT. And that's another good point. And some of, I think, my frustration and the frustration of Public Works is we ask DOT to do this audit, they come back with all these recommendations, and then they say, here, it's yours, you pay for it. Where we can't put a plow down on Route 5, we can't put a sign on Route 5, I can't adjust the lights on Route 5. We can enforce traffic on Route 5, but that's it. So it's a little frustrating that they have all these grand ideas, and it'd be akin to me walking over to my neighbor's house and telling them how they can make it more attractive or bigger or better, and then tell them, yeah, that's on you though. It's just, it seems to not make a whole lot of sense to me when they regulate so heavily what we can do or can't do on the state roads, 5, 30, 74, 194, and for them to come in and give us all these great ideas and then tell us, well, we don't have the money for it. Okay.
Because I have noticed Governor's Highway, the east and west, the lights are longer for green, because it used to be,
Yeah, so
to turn left to go south, it used to be really quick, and you want to cut the light.
And so there's some discussion in the RSA that they're doing that to allow tractor-trailer traffic to move those longer vehicles on a short light interval. You're going to get 1, maybe 2 through there. So if they extend that interval for that light, that east-west travel, you can get 3, 4, maybe more, depending on volume. So there's a lot of things like that. Ultimately, to answer your question, though, DOT regulates and changes. They have the master key to change all those lights. We can do Buckland Road. Actually, we can't. We make a request through them because it's all wired through the same stuff. We try to synchronize ours with Manchester's on Buckland, so they oversee all that. That's not us.
Okay.
We can get in there and manually shut it off if there's a malfunction. We can put it to flash, but we can't. The timing isn't located in that box.
So the old days are over, going in there?
Old days are over. They are long gone.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Balboni.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chief and Mr. Stetson. Just very happy to hear that you guys were already working on this when it was brought up to my attention. I've had a couple people talk to me about it. Mostly they had loved ones that were in accidents on Route 5. You say following too close is the leading cause of these accidents. I believe you. But it seems that most of these accidents that they were talking about were from pulling off of the side road, people ignoring the lights, and just obviously causing mass havoc.
So in the last year, and I only did causes for the 14 accidents with injuries. I didn't go through all the accidents, but of the 14 accidents with injuries, you had 3 following too close, 4 of some kind of lane violation, that would be failure to drive right or failure to maintain lane or even an unlawful passing, 1 DUI crash, 1 improper pass, 1 speed related, and 4 traffic light violations. So again, is that someone who's making a left turn, even on 5? If you're 5 northbound and you don't have an arrow to turn left at a light, and you make that left anyway, and you get hit because cars are coming faster, you don't see what's behind it, whatever. Those 4 light violation crashes could be someone turning off of Governor's Highway or off of Pleasant Valley or off of Strong or off of Chapel onto 5, or it could be someone on 5 who's looking to turn and go the other direction out of light. It depends. It's hard to tell. We'd have to read each report individually. But it's certainly, they're up, for those 14, it's up. That's another contributing factor. When I say leading cause, perennially following too close is townwide, all 300 and usually between 300 and 350 crashes a year. That's always the leading cause. But it could be, you know, there are exceptions to every rule and
These aren't the cause?
well, yeah, it's hard to put it into the data, you know, because people, we can ask them, were you on your phone? Nope.
Understood.
You know.
And I do agree with you, the recommendations by the DOT don't really make sense for pretty much anything out there except for spending money on stuff we don't need. Did you mention rotaries and say that would be astronomical in cost?
There was one recommendation for a rotary at Sullivan Avenue, Route 5. And I don't know the cost. I can tell you with what I perceive, what I sense is the town's current appetite for spending money is probably too much.
Oh, I absolutely love rotaries. I don't want to see one on Route 5.
Yeah, it's.
I don't think
I
that's
don't either. I
the
don't
right
know.
place.
We'd have to see how it exactly is proposed and designed. But that was one of their proposals, and I can only imagine it is, as you would guess, one of the most complex recommendations, and the price tag would probably correlate with that.
Excellent. I really appreciate your hard work on this, both of you. Thank you.
Counselor Pendleton?
Thank you. Thank you for stealing my questions.
You're welcome.
Okay, going back to that, can we come up with our own ideas or suggestions and bring it back to the state and see if they'd be willing to pay for it? Such as that sign that says, stop when flashing, stop ahead when flashing, so we can put that by the Pride. What I've witnessed the most on Route 5 is the long stretches, people build up speed. The faster cars build up the speed. You get up to the Pride and the Governor's Highway, you know, Governor's Highway and Route 5, and they have to slam their brakes on it. They want to change lanes, or, you know, they're causing accidents because they're speeding so fast. And that's what I've seen a lot of. But in the long stretches of the roads, is there a way that we can come up with our own and go back to the state and say, this would work for us?
We can always make recommendations to the state. I would want to do so empirically with good data. And I don't know that there's a ton of data to support that lights are being missed because of the falling too close. There's a couple of reports out there that I've seen since you last mentioned it months ago. I kind of dove in and started to peel back some of the layers to the onion, and it's there. I don't know that it's a pervasive enough issue for the state to embrace that and be willing to spend the money or endorse the change, but certainly we can look at it. Let me
There's
have
one on Buckland Road, as you're going up to TGI Friday, it says stop ahead when flashing. You know, they're all over the place. When you can't see the light, and sometimes you
Right.
can't see because you're behind a tractor trailer and it's a tandem trailer and you can't see it. Not that you're close, it's just that you're not that far behind. I'm not that close. I travel
Well,
far
that,
behind.
you are, that's the point, and that's, you know, we hate to say that in traffic enforcement, but, and I'll remember, and I'll bring up a name that most people on the council will remember and appreciate. I was at a crash one time on Nutmeg Road South in the winter, and it was during a snowstorm, and a car lost control over the curb and rolled, and it was on its roof on the side of the road. And I gave the person, I was Nicky New Guy, and I gave the person an infraction for traveling too fast for conditions. And they barked at me, well, how do you know how fast I was going? And Rich Bond, who many people love and adore and miss dearly, I do too, pushed me aside and said, I'll handle it, young man. And he said, the reason we know you're going too fast is, he said, look at your car and look at all these other cars. And kind of like Sesame Street, when one of these kids is doing their own thing, if your car's the only one on its roof and these cars are all on their wheels, we know you were going too fast.
You were doing something
Right?
different.
So
yeah.
if you're so close that you didn't see that light, it's incumbent upon the driver to back up so you can see.
Mhm.
So it's a very difficult defense in the world of traffic enforcement to say, I didn't see it.
Well, and a lot of times, I also see, and I'm very cautious at every intersection when I'm turning onto Route 5, I also see vehicles coming down Route 5 at a high rate of speed that they can't stop at the light. And our light has turned green, and we know there's a red, but you still have tractor trailers going through the lights. And I'm turning right onto Route 5, and they're just blowing the light. And I always wait. I always wait to make sure and look to watch the traffic on Route 5 because some of those trucks don't stop. They just don't. So, thank you.
Seeing nothing further, I think we're
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Chief. Thank you, Mr. Stetson. moving on to 13B, Counselor Carey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution setting a time and place to hold second public hearing to receive citizen input on revisions to the town charter. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby sets Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers at South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as a time and place for a second public hearing to receive citizen input on the revisions to the town charter.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to 13C, Counselor Bianski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution requesting the Board of Education forward all teacher union contracts at the time of signing to the clerk of the council at the same time as filed with the town clerk. Whereas Connecticut General Statute 10-135D requires the local Board of Education to file a signed copy of the teachers union contract with the town clerk, and whereas Connecticut General Statute 10-135D states, upon receipt of a signed copy of such contract, the clerk of such town shall give public notice of such filing. The terms of such contract shall be binding on the legislative body of the local or regional school district, unless such body rejects such contract at a regular or special meeting called and convened for such purpose within 30 days of the filing of the contract. And whereas December 3rd, 2024, the Board of Education completed their negotiations with the teachers union, and whereas the contract was filed with the town clerk, but no public notice was made, resulting in the town council missing the 30-day consideration of rejection of said contract. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the town council respectfully requests that the Board of Education forward a copy of all future signed teachers union contracts to the clerk of the council at the same time as filing with the town clerk to ensure that the council has the opportunity to review, reject, or do nothing consistent with Connecticut General Statute 10-153D.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Counselor Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the necessity of this resolution is. I mean, it's required by law that the town, it's sent to the town clerk. The town clerk is supposed to do this. It seems like in this case there was human error. It's not like in past years it hasn't been given public notice. I think it seems like it's more of a personnel issue than something that requires a resolution by the town council. There's already a procedure in place for the board to forward things to the town clerk. The town clerk is supposed to, give public notice. For some reason in this case it didn't happen, but it's not like it's a pervasive problem that's happened in the past. It sounds like it was just human error in this case where it didn't come to the board. So I'm just not sure that it's necessary to have a resolution. And just to follow up on something that the member of the public who spoke earlier and kind of intimated that this whole process was done in secret, it was on the Board of Education agenda for November 26th of this last year that they would be voting on this contract. So members of the public had the opportunity to go and speak before the Board of Education if they had a problem with what was in the contract. So it's not something that was done in secret. And then finally, just in the wording of the resolution itself, where it says, whereas December 3rd, 2024, the Board of Education completed their negotiations with the teachers union. I don't know if it's written that way because that's when it was sent to the town clerk, because the negotiations with the teachers union were completed long before December 3rd.
I believe that's when it was signed.
Ratified. Okay, when it was ratified?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And it has been, the last time, I don't know what happened in 2021. I know it wasn't brought up, but I know in 2018, it was a discussion item by the town manager at that time to just have a discussion on it. And back in 2005, it was rejected. And of course, it went to arbitration and it got awarded anyway. But I think just to keep, so that way we're not going to look backwards. mistakes happened. But just to go forward, just that way when it is dropped off into the clerk's office, at the same time, all it is just a procedural thing that the clerk of the council gets a copy or the town manager gets a copy. It's just, so that way we're aware. I mean, we can, as the resolution says, we can do nothing, or just bring it up like we did in 2018 as a discussion item. It's just to make, so that way it's more transparent. I mean, I guess it was on the meeting of the 26th. I know you missed a few meetings, so I don't know if you were there at that meeting to come back to the council in December to let us know that it was signed. I don't know. So it's just that way it doesn't happen again. And so going forward in 3 years, it's on the clerk of the council's calendar that to look in November to be on the lookout for it for December. Councilor Carey?
You know, I kind of agree with Councilor Fitzgerald as far as what you're saying. Also, I do think we should just make mention that the Board of Education did do what they're supposed to do. They signed the contract and they got it to the town clerk in the time they were supposed to get it. And I agree there's human mistake, but, you know, stuff happens. You know, we all make mistakes sometimes.
That's why the resolution says requesting and respectfully request. So it's not a demand, it's just a nice request. Any other further discussions? Councilor Pendleton?
If I could get an answer to this question, and what's the point of this resolution, please?
As stated, is so we can, just to make sure that the council has an opportunity to just have a discussion item like back in 2018, or have a resolution to reject it, and then there can go to a vote. And of course, I mean, I'm not going to say what they're going to vote, but they could just say, no, we're not going to reject it and let it go. I mean, this is a valid contract, so.
Okay, I understand, okay. The way that this resolution is written, the town clerk is not required to give the council a copy. The Board of Education is not required to give the council a copy. So public notice, okay, sure. Years and years it has not.
Yeah, it doesn't say that the clerk is.
No, that's what I'm saying. Hang on. I'm asking what you want guaranteed. If you want guaranteed that the council get a copy of the contract, then we have a clerk of the council that we have them set in their calendar for 3 years.
Which she has for 2027.
Right. I asked her to do that the other day. Thanks to me, it's now in the calendar. So I am going to say that
Well,
it's the...
I think myself and the town manager, as soon as this came up, and she took it upon herself too, to put it on the calendar.
Okay. Okay, well, I also had a conversation with her to make sure that it was in the calendar. That's what's going to guarantee that the council gets a copy, because our clerk works for us in communication.
Right, and I don't think we need an education on what the clerk does for us.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was never set in a calendar for her to go ask for it. So with that said, and it wasn't in her calendar to go ask for it prior to, or this past year, or even in January or December, whenever they ratified it, we, this whole council, received the Board of Education packets where it was on their agenda. So we, this whole council, look at the Board of Education packet, and knowing that the contract was coming up, could have asked Dr. Carter or our clerk to please get us a copy of the contract.
Or our liaison.
Or you
We
wouldn't
have a Board of Ed liaison.
But they wouldn't be communicating with staff. It would be our staff communicating with their staff.
But at our December meeting, it could have been brought up during communications.
It was. The contract was discussed in our December meeting. She brought up the contract. Yeah. 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 So I'm just saying, you know, instead of looking for blame or looking for fault or whatever, and speaking of which, what is the definition of public notice, please? Town Attorney?
It's notice put in the paper. Public notice.
Put in the paper? Or just post outside our building?
Both, but primarily it's put in the paper.
Put in the paper? Okay, because.
Not everybody's walking by the town hall. So
You're
Public
right.
notice is
You're
usually
right.
put in the paper.
So are other contracts of the town put in the paper on public notice? Do we have to do that?
I don't believe so. I think the only statutory requirement is in this statute about Board of Ed contracts.
Okay, okay. So, in looking back, again, every one of us is accountable for not getting a copy. We could have asked for it. We knew it was happening. We could have asked for it. We could have asked Kathy to get us a copy. So, going forward in the future, I don't see a point, I don't see a point in this resolution. I think it's a shame that we even have to bring it up this way. I think a simple solution would have been a discussion item and pointing out that we asked Kathy to put it in our calendar for future clerks of the council. And I think it's a shame that the way that this is written. That's all I have to say. And I think it's a shame that others are being blamed for the lack of others doing their job.
Thank you, Counselor Pendleton. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Abstain? Roll call, please.
Counselor Buganski. Counselor Lewis. Counselor Balboni. Counselor Carey.
Nay.
Did you say abstain?
She said nay. No.
Nay, I'm sorry. Need to get those hearing aids. Mayor Delnicki.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Siracusa.
Yes.
Counselor King. No. Counselor Fitzgerald.
No.
Counselor Pendleton.
No.
5 yeses and 4 noes.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to 13D, Counselor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution accepting the resignation of Kristen Kozakowski from the Parks and Recreation Commission effective January 14th, 2025. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Kristen Kozakowski as an alternate member of the Parks and Recreation Commission effective January 14th, 2025. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Kristen Kozakowski for the time dedicated to serving the community by memberships of the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Moving on to 13E, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Resolution accepting the resignation of Jackie Balboni from the Parks and Recreation Commission effective January 22nd, 2025. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Jackie Balboni as a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission effective January 22nd, 2025. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Jackie Balboni for the time dedicated to serving the community by membership on the Parks and Recreation Commission.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Roll call, please.
Counselor Buganski. Counselor Lewis. Counselor Balboni. Counselor Carey.
Aye.
Mayor Delnicki.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Siracusa.
Yes.
Counselor King. Yes. Counselor Fitzgerald. Yes. Counselor Pendleton. Yes. 8 yeses, 1 abstention.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to 13F, Counselor Balboni.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution accepting the resignation of John Murphy III from the Inland Wetlands Commission effective January 16th, 2025. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of John Murphy III as a member of the Inland Wetlands Commission effective January 16th, 2025. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to John Murphy III for the time dedicated to serving the community by membership on the Inland Wetlands Commission.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain, motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 14, passage of ordinance, having none. Item 15, public input for any matter. Public input for any matter over which the council has jurisdiction shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council for any item over which the council has jurisdiction. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Mr. Dillon.
I decided to jump the gun as you were reading. One comment on what Mr. Balboni wrote in a letter form about how we should not have a referendum vote because people won't, not you, that was what you read from a taxpayer, that we should not have a vote because we would have low information voters coming out. We have that all the time. I'm 64, I've been voting for 44 years since the great election of Ronald Reagan, and we have low information voter. They still have the ability and the right to vote, even if it's the wrong vote, and that's up for interpretation. Secondly, I don't know where we are in the budget process. I know the town wants, I don't know what the town wants. I haven't looked that close. I know the school wants like 5.9%. I'm told the town's side is kind of to where they're bleeding, so I'm thinking it's within a parameter. I don't know what kind of an increase we're looking at. I think the blatantly, last time we used a shell game, we pulled money out of savings. First of all, why are we taxing taxpayers if we have that kind of money in savings that we don't need for that emergency backup plan? But without having gone through a real actuarial audit to see where the town school system spends money, you're never going to have control of the budget of numbers until you actually see. Prime example, we have a lot of wants. I kind of deal with needs. I do wants a lot, but I have to do with the needs first. I'm teaching my son, when he moves into my house one day, he may want a new kitchen. He may want hardwood floors throughout. He's going to go spend 60 grand to do that. In the meantime, his roof leaks because you didn't take care of the need. You took care of a want. I see Mr. Balboni has a lovely hot tub in the backyard. I have a $300 horse trough that my grandkids have for a pool. You might want a $20,000 pool. They get a $300 horse trough because it's not a need. I'm putting groceries and food and a roof over the head. See what I'm saying? Until you actually go into the budget, it's Rubbermaid from Tractor Supply. Nice little round thing. I even fit Mr. King. Until you get a hold of what the actual needs are for the school system, we want to spend on a brand new stadium. We already have a stadium within spitting distance of this stadium that wants to come up for referendum. That's a want. As I hear it, and I'm not an expert, our elementary schools are overflowing. The school board is going to come crying to a council in the future, crying for funds for space at the middle school and the high school because there's no room for these kids. You can't spend the whole wad. Grandpa goes to Disney with a wad of money. You can't spend it all in one day. You got to flush it out for the week. You guys have to take into consideration. We can't do shell games. We need to address the budget issue. I came before you one other time with a list of 7 or 9 towns surrounding us that spend less per taxpayer than we do. They include towns that have paid fire departments, 3 pools in town, 7 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. They do it for less. Don't tell me that they don't take as much pride as we do in our systems. They may not be blue ribbon schools, but they're red ribbon schools, or they're yellow ribbon schools. They perform the same function. They educate our kids. They provide services to the town, and they do it at less bang per buck, per taxpayer. Again, I'll say it again. I've said it a few times in front of councils. We have a spending problem. We don't have a revenue problem, even though I don't want you in my pocket unless I need you there. Pretty soon, my kids' taxes are going to outpace the mortgage payment, the principal and interest. That's horrible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon.
Right on time, too. That's never happened.
Anyone else would like to come forward at this time? Anyone else like to have input on any matter? Seeing none, moving on to item 16, communications from the council. Councilor King.
Real quick, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you. I probably should have done it earlier, but I know when we have our commissions and our committees that it is a huge commitment. I know even for us as counselors, full-time jobs, kids, other things going on, spouses, what have you, other commitments, we recognize that it is a huge commitment. I will say, just for the record, I was disappointed in Ms. Balboni as well as Ms. Kozakowski, only because, as well as Mr. Murphy, only because I know that they are heavily invested in our community, whether it's their spouse or significant other that is either served on the council or is currently serving. And so I know that it's not for lack of wanting to serve. And so I just want to say to all of the different people that are serving that we do appreciate you. We recognize that it is a huge effort, and for those that do it, we need to work better in regards to making sure that we appreciate your time. And so please know that as a council, we are working on efforts to, whether it's Zoom meetings, whether it's having alternates, so on and so forth. We know a lot of you commit to the time, and at the same time, when you have to cancel because of non-quorum or so on and so forth, you know, that can be very frustrating, and we understand that. And so I just wanted to say, just for the record, especially when I saw these particular names, that I know that they're heavily invested in our community and want to be, but unfortunately, other things kind of take precedent. Just know that we do appreciate you and everybody that does work. We are working harder to make sure that we can give our community the services that they want, while at the same time respecting the time that you need. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I just have one announcement regarding Governor Lamont announces his 2025 legislative proposal is increased special education support for municipalities. Governor Ned Lamont today announced that the state budget proposal he will present to the Connecticut General Assembly later this week, which is actually Wednesday, February 5th, which is the State of the State address, will include an increase in funding for the towns and cities to provide special education services for students with disabilities, as well as the creation of a new program that incentivizes municipalities to provide special education programming to students in district or on a regional basis. And also for fiscal year 2027, the governor is recommending to the legislature that the excess cost grant, which subsidizes high-cost placements for students with the greatest needs, be increased by an additional $40 million. So again, his budget's going to be announced on Wednesday, I believe at noontime, or 11 or noontime. So if you're interested in the budget from the state, I would listen on CTN on Wednesday. You have something, Councilor Curie?
I wanted to ask if we get a copy of that. So I'll get it afterwards.
Okay. Moving on to item 17, executive session. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I move that we go into executive session, and I'd like to invite Town Manager, Mr. Michael Maniscalco, Assistant Town Manager, Mr. Scott Roberts, and Town Attorney, Mr. Corella, to discuss 17A, pending litigation, 20 Strawberry Fields, and 17B, purchase of development rights for 379 Scantic Road and 2048 John Fitch Boulevard.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Just for everyone else in the audience, we will be adjourning tonight's meeting. We will be adjourning tonight's meeting after during our executive session, so we will not be returning to this room. Thank you. Meeting adjourned, or not adjourned. Executive session.